Yo,
Hello, hello.
hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty well. Just getting this full screen working. Okay, there we go. The
Sounds
one
good.
thing about video is that I am eating a bowl of oatmeal, so
Oh, nice. Perfect.
it's good to meet you though.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Yeah, I'm drinking some, what is this? Vitamin Water Zero. So we're
Okay,
both
okay.
we're twinning.
Yeah, it's like it's food and it's sort of in that like healthy category, eh?
Ish, yeah. And they're both like quasi-liquid. Well, yours is quasi-liquid, mine is liquid. So
I'm both drinking or eating quas. Yeah, that fucked my sentence up because I was
yeah,
gonna summarize what we're doing, and then I realized I don't know what the action is that describes the consumption of a quasi
consuming.
liquid.
Yeah, exactly. Well, does
Slurping.
liquidity entail? I think I think liquidity probably entails quasi-liquidity, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe we should just discuss that.
That is it. Yeah, that's the ultimate philosophical question.
Yeah, so I don't know your content super well. What I've seen, I've been really impressed with though. I like people who are I like to see people doing like real philosophy on the YouTube.
Yeah,
I guess
of
saying
course,
real
yes.
real philosophy obviously sounds horribly pretentious, but we both know like how hilarious like YouTube is, right? So it's nice for someone
Yeah.
who actually knows what they're talking about, who like like I mean obviously you have a if you don't have an education, I'm astounded. Surely you study philosophy, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean it's good to have people who like know what they're talking about, spreading good info with actual good quality videos. Cuz
Yes.
of there's the subset of people who are actually doing that, a bunch of them just like don't put any effort into aesthetics. I've been trying to get Troy, who you know from Friction, to care a bit
Yes.
more about this. But yeah, you have
Yes,
that going
exactly.
too. So yeah, it's just a good production overall. I really like what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. I've been trying to up production value as of late. I actually left my HD camera at my school, so because I normally record there. I'm on spring break right now, so
Hmm.
um, that's why I'm at my usual background. Normally there's, well, quote unquote normally, there's like a little towel rack behind me, and it looks like I'm in a bathroom, but it's my dorm room, so
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's gonna if we share this video later, it's gonna be funny because people aren't gonna understand what I'm talking about when I'm going on about your quality, and you're like, appearing like this currently.
exactly.
So I guess the thing we wanted to talk about was moral realism. Um, so I mean, if you have an idea of what direction you want to go right off the bat, you can just take the wheel. But otherwise, I would maybe like describe my general kind of view on it and let you assess that or something. Whatever you want,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I mean, uh, we're not recording yet, are we?
I have it recording on my end in
Oh, that's
OBS.
totally fine. That's totally fine. Okay, I
Oh
was just
yeah, sorry.
asking.
Did we discuss recording? I can also not record it. I don't. Sorry. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, yeah, I presumed it was going to be recorded. I was just
Okay.
wondering when.
Oh, okay.
No, we're good.
I had it recording before we even started the call, but
Oh, okay.
we can like clip out us like chatting or we can do whatever with it. I just have the
Yeah,
whole
no,
thing. Yeah.
the people would probably they'll probably laugh at the beginning when we were talking about quasi liquidity. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm fine with going whatever direction you want to, honestly. I mean, I probably got I don't know until so I probably got 75 minutes, if that's fine with you.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it's quarter till, so an hour past quarter till. I don't know what time zone you're. I'm in Eastern time, so.
Yeah, I'm in Eastern too, and I may
Okay,
need to be
sweet.
reminded because I'm bad for the time. But yeah, like I
Yeah.
really shouldn't actually be doing a huge conversation right now because for me, the break is over and there is a
Oh,
midterm the day after tomorrow.
yes,
And hey
exactly.
Google, stop. And I should be should be doing problems to prepare for that, but I don't know. I'm doing philosophy, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Well,
okay,
that's better.
yeah, maybe I'll describe my view then if you don't have a particular kind of angle you like to all because some people they're like I like to do this with this discussion. I'm like, okay, well,
Well,
let's just let you do that then.
let me just define moral realism. Is that does that sound good?
Yeah, because I was going to start out by laying out this is the kind of things it can mean and this is what I feel about the different things someone might mean by it. So if you want to just start
Yeah.
by clarifying what you mean by it, that's obviously great.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, ethics, unlike a lot of other domains, is a bit wishy-washy with respect to definitions. I don't know. A lot of people use, even professional philosophers use a lot of these terms quite differently. But as I understand it, the kind of general trend in metaethics is to define and understand moral realism as a kind of tripartite, and in some cases, what is it, tetrapartite or quadripartite? I don't know. A four-part thesis or a three-part thesis. Okay, so the three-part thesis, and then I'll talk about the fourth. Firstly, our moral claims, or at least many of our moral claims in our judgments, like murder is wrong, or you ought not torture babies. So I'm including both the kind of normative aspects in there with respect to what we should and shouldn't do, as well as the kind of, I guess, axiological um, properties like goodness and badness. Some people would say like deontic or whatever, but there are different ways you could cash it out. But those sorts of claims, attributing goodness, badness, rightness, wrongness, permissibility, impermissibility, supererogatoriness, those sorts of things to states of affairs, acts, people, and so on. That's what I mean by a moral claim or a moral judgment. And so this first part of the thesis of moral realism is just that some of these moral claims are, at least many of us, they are truth apt. When we say these things, they are truth apt. So we deny non-cognitivism. We instead say that these things are expressing propositions or expressing beliefs aiming to represent moral reality. Okay, so that's cognitivism. It's a denial of non-cognitivism. These aren't mere expressions of emotion or things like that. Instead, these moral claims have a determinate meaning, and they can be, in principle, true or false. So that's cognitivism. The second component is, well, at least some of these are true, so they're not all uniformly false. Some of them are true. So that we could call that a non-nihilism. Some of them are actually true. So it's actually true, for instance, that torturing puppies for fun is wrong. Just an example. And then the third component is stance independence. So these are true, like the truth values of these moral claims is not determined by or a function of or dependent on anyone's beliefs or stances or desires or attitudes or whatever, any of our subjective mental states. So even if, for instance, we all thought that kicking cats on Wednesdays was a good thing to do, even if we all thought that, we would all presumably be mistaken. So the truth value of the relevant statement, that kicking cats on Wednesdays is a-okay or permissible, that's not dependent on our attitudes, desires, what pleasure we might get from it, and so on. Anyway. So it's stance independence, cognitivism, and non-nihilism. And then the fourth aspect that some people add is a kind of epistemic access. So some of us know some of these moral truths. So you don't want a kind of skepticism with regard to all of these. You want to say that some of us know at least some moral claims. Anyway, that's kind of how I use. I know it's a bit scattered, but I'm just doing it off the top of my head. So, and I should say to people that I am not a professional metaethicist. I work in philosophy of religion, philosophy of time, and metaphysics. Okay, so this is a little bit outside my domain of research. So, I just wanted to say that. But yeah, anyway, what do you think about? Well, I'll just turn it over to you.
Well, I guess I'll repeat back some of that and just make sure I'm following you. So, yeah, you're just saying that realism is either 3 or 4 pieces. I mean, 3 pieces is obviously easier to defend, so we can talk about the 3-piece version, the 3-piece suit. But yeah, you're just saying it's cognitivism, so moral statements are truth apt. You're rejecting error theory, at least one of them's true, and they're stance independently true. So you can have a situation where even if everyone converged on a belief that P, where P is some moral proposition, it could nonetheless be the case that not P.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah. Pardon me?
I said perfect.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess there's a few things that I would say. So I guess I want to kind of almost zoom up a level. It's not. I mean, I don't know how useful it's going to be to do this, but for some reason I just feel a bit compelled to give this information. But then I'll talk more precisely about, I guess, 2 of the 3. Well, let me just come around to that. So, okay, so the first thing I want to say is, like, in a big picture, like, have you talked to Lance Bush at all?
No, I have seen some of his discussions about variableism and indeterminism with respect to the kind of folk metaethics.
Yeah, so I really like this guy because obviously he brings a ton of great points, great novel points, but he also has managed to nicely sum up a lot of things that I was thinking, or in some cases had said. So it's like, in addition to coming with all this great info, he came and restated things that I had said in better ways that were like nice and clear. So he says, and this one is just one of his though. He says moral realism are views that are described by their proponents, I guess, or just described by people as moral realist. They tend to fall in three categories: either false, or maybe he does false slash like unsubstantiated, trivial, or incomprehensible. And loosely speak, I'm not sure he holds that as some strict, like universally quantified statement, but I mean, that might not be fair, but it's like a generalization at least. Um, I think the idea is like so like an example of like a false view might be if you had some kind of moral realism, say it like presupposed God or something like that, and you had reasons to like reject God. Like I think we're both agnostic or atheist with respect to at least certain gods. Um, that kind of moral realism is just going to be false. The trivial kind is usually going to be this kind of like naturalist moral realism. So if you hear people like like Stefan Molyneux or like Sam Harris or yeah, I mean, okay, I can tell by your reaction you kind of get what I'm talking about. It's like they end up in one way or another just saying something like there's facts about what maximizes well-being, or there's facts about what will like satisfy the most preferences or something like this. And then, unfortunately, and this is the part that you're not going to like, the third category is, I think, where you are, which is the views that I just don't fucking understand. And those are the ones that start talking about stance independence. So we're probably, like, I'll just tell you right now where I think this will go, but I hope we can go somewhere else. I think that I'm going to say that I don't understand what a external normative reason is. I'm going to tell you that my concept of a reason has built into it something like a referentiality, where it references some kind of goal or something like this, and I'd actually lack a concept of a non-goal referencing reason and need to be provided one. You'll probably say, and you can correct all my straw men later if this isn't right, but this is just the way this conversation seems to go when people hold this view. You'll probably say it's primitive, or you'll refer to a range of other terms that I also don't know the meaning of, like should or ought or whatever. And it'll likely come down to you saying, I just have a hard time conveying what these kind of external normative reasons are. And then we're going to be in a place where I go, okay, well, this is kind of like if someone said God had revealed himself to them, right? Like maybe this is the case. Maybe you're seeing these things, and maybe I am honestly the one who's confused, but I don't have access to, or if I do, I don't understand it in the right way, whatever it is that you're calling the external normative reason. So I'm just left kind of in an epistemic pit or something where it's like you're saying you have this thing, and I don't know how to get out and get onto your page because I lack the concept. Because again, sorry to repeat, but my concept of like a moral statement, like my concept of like these moral terms like ought and should and stuff, it's got referentiality built into it. So I'm conceptless to the person who tells me they believe in this external normative stuff. And then finally, sorry to just stack it on. So those are my takes on the three views, and a bit about how I think the conversation is likely to go, given that you hold the third view. But please tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to strawman you. And then finally, I just want to say one other thing. This I think we might be able to clear up. These views like error theory or non-cognitivism, whatever they might be, we usually, like for subjectivism, we'll go, okay, moral statements are truth apt, at least one is true, and the truth maker is something in our psychology. Or error theory, it's like moral statements are truth apt and they're all false, right? um, these views have a vagueness to them about what quote moral statements they're quantifying over. Now, I appreciate you tried to offer some clarity there, but just to be clear, are you you don't have to answer this right away, but maybe we can leave this floating. You can address it if you want. I'm curious, which, like, are you quantifying over whenever an English speaker uses those words? In which case, I think you'll have this kind of empirical burden, which I'm not great with stats and stuff, so it's not a debate for me. But it's just there's going to be this empirical burden to show that that's actually what's going on with people when they're making these kind of statements. Or are you maybe saying something about just how the statements are intended when you make them? So yeah, that's basically where I would start. So when it comes to your view. I'd push on the stance independence thing, and I'd push, but I think we'll reach clarity pretty easily on it. But I just need clarity. I'd also just push on the who when you say moral claims, which are you quantifying, or if it's just any time an English speaker uses the terms or whatever. So yeah, there's a lot. Say what you will.
Yeah, so there is a lot to say there. So I guess the first thing that I just want to do here is just, I guess, clarify my views on the matter. So I will reiterate once again for the audience that, again, this is not my main area of research. I'm very interested in the debates, and I've taken upper level and even grad seminar courses in ethics and so on, where we cover about ethics and whatnot. But I don't publish on this, and I don't actively research this. My nose is buried in philosophy of religion, metaphysics, and philosophy of time, as I said. So that's just a caveat to people, okay? So don't expect me to be able to completely satisfy all the demands against my view or the objections and so on. So I just want to say that there are more qualified people than me at that. So it's the first thing I want to say, the requisite epistemic humility out of the way, because it's important, right? We need to recognize the limitations. Secondly, what I want to say is, yes, I do probably fall into that third camp, the kind of stance independence camp. It's not some kind of dogmatic commitment of mine, but I lean towards that, and I think it's the most plausible view that makes sense of a wide range of data. That's kind of the reason why I hold it. And then, yeah, so now to go to your two sorts of, I guess, worries. So one of them was, yeah, this question of, like, anytime an English speaker makes one of these moral claims when they're attributing to an act or a person or a state of affairs, some moral property, like goodness or badness or rightness or wrongness or whatever, are they intending or are they expressing these things that I've characterized? You know, are they really trying to make claims
That's not
expressing...
quite what I asked. Can we make a
Yeah,
habit
yeah,
of
yeah.
we cut in if we think the other person might have
Yeah,
misunderstood?
that's totally fine.
Yeah, I'm not asking which of those views is true. I'm just asking if you're making that empirical claim.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, I wouldn't make that empirical claim, no, just because lots of different people probably mean lots of
Yeah,
different things.
and
As Lance has pointed out, like, I mean, some people might really just be trying to, like, command people to do things. Like, you know, like, shut the door. They might just be trying to command people when
right,
they make certain claims, like, don't abort, you know, like things like that. Or some
okay,
people might just be expressing their emotions. So, like,
right.
I don't want to get into, like, empirical debates here, like you. So, yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, I guess we could just talk about what I mean in this regard. And
Okay,
I think, of course, lots of English speakers mean that, but I'm certainly not going to say that, like, majority, or I'm not going to say all. So
yeah.
that's a
Uh,
clarification on that
that
as well.
that point is just settled then. Okay, so just to
Okay.
clarify, so when you say moral statements are, and you give your three things like truth apt, at least one's true, and the truth maker's stance independent thing, or their stance independently true. Um, you when you use the word moral statement there, you're referring to well, other people might make these too, but you're referring minimally to your own moral statements. The when you
Yeah,
speak. Yeah.
and those who use it as I do, basically like that.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah.
making claims about who is in that
Mm-hmm.
quantificator.
Got
You
you.
can
Okay,
fill
that's
me in if you
settled
want.
then. We don't disagree at all about that.
Okay, so the second thing was the stance independence, and yeah, this is gonna get rough. So like, I think, for instance, about the like, just this is just a little bit of an aside, but I think about the
Sure.
ontological monism versus ontological pluralism debate. So ontological monists say that there's only one way of being or mode of existence, or it's kind of hard to describe, but like everything exists in the exact same sense. So numbers exist. There are such things as numbers. Existence is univocal. You know, you're basically just saying that the number of numbers is greater than zero. Um, and to say that Pegasuses or Pegasi, whatever, don't exist, you're saying that the number of Pegasi is zero. You're saying that there are no such things. And all these things enjoy the exact same mode of being or way of existence. Sure, they have various different properties, right? So one might be abstract, one might be concrete. Numbers might be abstract, I might be concrete. But that doesn't mean they enjoy some, like, different mode of being, or, like, their existence is a different kind of existence. They just have different properties. So that's ontological monism. Ontological pluralism says that there are multiple ways of being. And so, like, they might say that there's a concrete way of being, which is a different kind of existence, or different, like, way of existing than an abstract way of being. Now, a lot of ontological monists just kind of sit back and they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about with respect to a way of being. Like, what is a mode of being? What is a way of being? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, I don't even have that concept. Um, and, you know, on some days I feel that. Some days I'm like, okay, I just don't understand what you're saying. But, like, it's difficult because if we just don't even have the concept, like, how can you even make headway there? I mean, I guess I can try to point out that, like, they might try to point to examples, they might try to give concrete cases, they might try to a lot of things they might try to do, but ultimately, if you just don't have the concept, I mean, you might reach a stalemate. So I'm worried that that might potentially come up here. But anyway, now
That's why
on
I
to the
started
actual.
by trying to prophesize the.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be
So
funny if two people just immediately realized the depth of their divide and exactly where it was, and just said, "Oh, okay, well, we just disagree fundamentally. Well, good chat."
exactly. Um, okay, so these sorts of external normative reasons that don't reference someone's goals. So you don't have the you don't seem to have like a concept like your concept of reason seems to build in this kind of
Yeah,
goal
it's
referentialism, as it were.
analytically connected to this. Yeah,
Okay,
it's like if say we
so
have a term. Oh, sorry.
yeah, no, go
Oh,
on, go on.
I
It's
don't
fine.
think this is going to be useful for you, but just for people who watch, just a basic knowledge. It's like if someone was, and this is the case where the folk terms align with mine, right? I grant that maybe I'm not making sense here, but to take a case we'll all agree with, like it would be like if someone was using a term like taller or shorter, and they were saying things like, Bob's taller, and a lot of people would like think that makes sense. Yeah, okay, it must mean he's like taller than he was last year or something, or he's gotten taller. You see where I'm going, right? Someone might be like, that tree is smaller, right? I mean, oh, smaller than the tree beside it. But then it's like when someone starts, the hypothetical and categorical is kind of like comes up here, but it's like when someone just starts saying it's just taller, you're like, yeah, like taller than what? They're like, well, it's just taller. You're just like, wait. I can't process that because my concept of taller has built into it some kind of like relationality. It's like something is taller than something else. And if someone says they have a concept of taller that is not a not non-relational tallerness, that's what like external normative reason sounds like to me. I'm like, non-relational tallerness, like what are you talking? So that's kind of how it feels to me. And I'm sure even if you don't agree, you can picture what it looks like from my perspective, given that I'm like being honest or whatever, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
accurately reporting my what's going on in my brain.
yeah. I mean, I'm not going to call into question the verticality of the report. But yeah. So I mean, I saw the debate or discussion between Lance Bush and Eric Sampson, and I saw the different ways that Eric went around and the different. So I'm tempted to go some of those ways. Like, okay, there are lots of things. I know you pointed this out at the beginning. You're prophesying, but like, there are lots of things that I'm just aghast to give you some kind of explanation, but or some kind of explication of what it is, try to get you to latch onto the concept. Um,
Hmm.
but nonetheless, we all are perfectly fine with the concept. So like yellow, I don't know. It's really difficult to give some kind of explication of yellowness, or I guess we could pick something else like
Hmm.
what is an action or something like that. I don't know. Whatever example we want to choose, some kind of thing. We're ultimately going to hit some kind of primitive, right? We're either going to go in a circle, or we're either it's like the Pyrrhonian skeptics and whatever the Agrippa trilemma. You're either going to go in a circle with these interdefining concepts, or you're going to go infinitely down, or at some point you're just going to have to hit primitive rock bottom with your explication or analysis of these concepts. Now, if you're going in a circle, of course, someone who doesn't even share the relevant concepts, or at least many of them, won't be able to kind of barge into the circle, as it were. And if you're going infinitely down, it's not clear that you really ultimately do have an explication that you can get a kind of grip on. So, I mean, this might just be one of those cases where, again, yeah, we're just going to kind of hit a primitive rock bottom. I mean, it's just a consideration that counts in favor of something, and it's counting in favor of that thing. It's not, it doesn't count in favor of it because you want it to happen. It doesn't not because you have a goal that it would be served by the actualization of it. It's just that's the way it is, right? That's the way it goes.
Yeah. See, I
I
don't
know.
understand if this. Oh, sorry.
No. I mean, you can go on. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
like if
listen.
if
Yeah, go.
if for the CIF relation to obtain isn't just for it to um, motivate you in the case that you become aware of the reason. I just don't know what the fuck it even means for the CIF relation to obtain.
Yeah. Well,
And one
I
other
mean,
thing, I want to push back just a tiny bit because I'm not sure if you're doing this. You might be thinking I'm making a stronger claim than I am. I forget if Lance goes harder here. He probably does because he's a really strong anti-realist. Um, I'm not saying. In fact, I actually I told Lance that he made a small error on this in a debate. Actually, I don't know if he agreed with what I said to him. But did you see when Lance spoke with Omni, or
I
you might know him
didn't.
as Deity Defeater, or no?
I didn't. No.
He's got your kind of view, roughly, or at least closer to your kind of view, and he made a point that when you go down to like this really low kind of level in our language, you're going to see this kind of circular pattern, and it's not like specific to morality or something like that. You can see it also maybe in like epistemology or in some other area that we're like unwilling to abandon, right? And the it's almost like companions and guilting him on that kind of like, you accept the circle over here, and it's the same kind of circle over here. So if you're going to accept this one, you accept this one or reject them both, right? It's like almost creating that kind of like modus tollensy, companions and guilty kind of like tension. And I think that I think no, I think Lance replied in a way where he tried to break the symmetry. And I don't go that far. Now, he might have good arguments for that, and if he does, then I guess my correction wasn't a correction. But I thought that he didn't, it wasn't clear that he was giving a good reply at that point. And I think it was because he was trying to almost like break the symmetry. I forget the exact, but okay, so sorry, let me come back to the point. So the point is that I'm not necessarily saying there is a symmetry breaker. I'm not objecting like in virtue of you having a linguistic circle or that I can't get into. Maybe everything does make sense once you're inside of it, right? I'm very open to that. Maybe that's actually the case. It's just a problem about whether I can come to have the same beliefs as you, and to have the same beliefs, I need to like minimally at least share the concepts that the beliefs are like about, or whatever, right? So I guess to sum that all up, I'm not objecting in this stronger way of saying because you have some like a circle at the base of language, or whatever exactly the structure might be that's supposed to be problematic. That's not the problem. I'm just saying my problem is me coming to share your beliefs if I can't get inside the linguistic circle and understand the concepts that are the beliefs are like using. Does that make sense?
So what you're saying is like you already find yourself located in that epistemology circle. So you're already in there, so it's perfectly fine. But like with respect to that morality circle, you're trying to get in there in the first place, right? And so
Yeah,
it's not
exactly. You said it better than me. Yeah, the objection isn't that there, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm in one with epistemol. I'm not granting that, but I'm saying I might be. I'm open to that. It could be.
yeah. You're open.
I'm not going to make a statement on if it's circles or chains, or however that works. The point is, I'm open to
Yeah.
maybe I have it in this case, and maybe it's fine to have it in this case too. But yeah, exactly. The objection isn't the structure, that language structure itself. It's just a problem of me getting into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean. Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to. Okay, so like one thing that I could say is, hey, I mean, a lot of people seem to be able to get this, and I know that this is something that Eric Sampson. I know you like.
It's
you're
as
aware
though
of these
everything you say,
responses.
you know that I've heard it like 50
Yeah,
times,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, people seem to be getting along and going well. There seems to be a practice here that's, fruitful, and people seem to be understanding it without having to, I guess.
Yeah, but sorry to cut you off, but isn't this a point to the fact that it can be a real thing and it can exist? And I'm not challenging you on any of that, right? Maybe you understand. I'm saying I don't understand what it is, right? Like you're making
Yeah.
all these points of like people seem to be operating on it, and it's and like someone could grant all of this and be like, yeah, like yeah, there's probably something there, but I can't form a belief that it's about it because I don't know what the fuck it is, right? It's like
Yeah.
my limitation is actually having the concepts. That's like a way. So you see how what you're doing there might be targeting a kind of a higher level problem, like because it's yeah, or okay, I won't
Yeah.
give more
No,
clarity if
yeah,
you
no,
follow me. Yeah.
yeah, no, I definitely see that, but I guess that's one way to kind of help massage people into trying to get the concept. Like
Yeah, sure.
they start to see that okay, there does seem to be something that people may be latching onto, and if I pay close attention to what they're doing, potentially I might be able to latch onto the concept and barge into the circle. So that's
Yeah.
one. I mean,
And
there might
I'm
be
not
some way to
granting
kind
the
of distinguish.
empirics there. I'm not granting that there's a common thing people are doing, but yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I guess you aren't either. You're not making. In fact, isn't this in tension with you saying that you agree with indeterminism about this kind of stuff, or that you don't have a
so
or
I wasn't like I wasn't granting that the indeterminism or variableism or these other sorts of things are true.
Right, yeah.
I'm not denying them here for present
Mhm.
purposes. Just because that's beyond my pay grade. I'd have to go and look at the literature
Did
to figure
but
that out.
wasn't the objection you just ran that people seem to be doing this kind of stuff, and the because I guess my objection was that I don't think that that criticism you just made targets my objection because it's about lacking the concepts.
Yeah.
But I
I mean,
think
like
there might be
lots
a
of people.
yeah well
Yeah, so like lots of people, like professional meta-ethicists do this, and a number of ordinary people. I'm not making claims about
okay
how many it is, or
yeah
majority, or numbers, or what have you.
oh okay all
Um,
right just there's a chunk of people who seem to be doing stuff like this.
yeah, and seem to be, yeah, getting around just fine, and seem to be having fruitful conversations and success in certain community practices and whatnot.
Mhm.
Now, I'm just wondering, like, how I'm almost at a loss. Like, how am I supposed to get you to have this concept? I mean, I could try to connect it to other concepts that you might have. I mean, I could talk about, um, I mean,
The best
again,
suggestion I ever got was an interpretive dance was what one streamer suggested to me.
like honestly, I might have to do that.
Feel
Like,
free.
listen, I'm not saying that this is like a rational failing on your part, right? I'm
No.
some of us just don't have certain concepts. Like sometimes when I hear the ontological pluralists talk about all these different modes or ways of being, and I'm just like, I don't understand any of this. Like, I don't have this concept, and when people try to give it to me, um, I still am just like at a loss. And even when they try to connect it to different sorts of things. So like, I don't want to accuse you in any sense, of course, and I'm not saying you are accusing me of accusing you of this.
No, of course,
We're
no.
about to get into
No
discussion, but
accusations.
like,
We're good.
I'm not accusing you of like any kind of irrationality. It just seems to just be maybe a fact of your psychology or something that you don't share this concept that I seem to have, at least by my introspective awareness, I seem to have. And I mean, I do kind of struggle to know how to proceed from here. Like, yeah, I mean, because I've seen this play out in debates that I am more familiar with, like the pluralism monism debate. That's why I keep on
Sure.
going back to that, because that's my touch point, that's my reference point. And I
Mhm.
have seen that oftentimes that kind of connection strategy, where they kind of try to connect it to other sorts of concepts that I do have and whatnot, I've seen that a lot of those strategies just fail, because like be able to point out some kind of extrinsic relations that this thing has to these other sorts of things, but like I want to know what that sort of thing is in and of itself. So
And I
yeah, I
don't
mean,
think
I
we
guess
have the
I'm just almost
same.
at a
Sorry.
loss. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I guess I'm just almost at a loss. So like I'll turn it over to you, and maybe we could just go in some sort of different direction. I mean, I don't know, I don't want to just into the conversation,
No,
but
that's good.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's real puzzling. Yeah. The thing I notice often with the strategy you were just discussing. Sorry, I got excited. I don't mean to cut you off.
no, it's fine. I
But
do that all the time.
the that the problem with that is I find when people try to do that, I they'll say the term that's in question is moral, right? It could be any term in the net. It could be should or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just some moral term. Let's say it's the word moral, right? They might define it in terms of should or ought or what's correct or I mean I could think of the rest of the net, but there's like 20 of these, right? And the thing is, when you say you're trying to connect it to concepts I have, if they were using my concept of should or of right or of correct, then maybe that would work. But whenever they talk about one of those words, I just say, okay, well, my understanding of, like, let's say that there's just a set of these they appeal to, right? Like there's like alpha, then beta, then whatever. You get a whole bunch of them, right? It's like, okay, well, my understanding of alpha is it means roughly that I have a preference for this. Are you saying that's not your understanding of alpha? They're like, yeah, no, I understand it to not mean that. It's like, okay, well, can you give me some other term? They're like, okay, well, should it's about should, right? Now we're on beta. It's like, okay, well, my understanding of beta is that it's got to do with what my preferences are. Is that how you're understanding it? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, so is, and then it creates a cycle. So the problem is when you try to reach out to make the connection to other concepts they have, but then those very concepts, it turns out you and the person you're trying to convince are just using the same word and not even sharing those concepts either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's also something else that comes up in the monism, like pluralism debate. It's like the pluralists will appeal to other sorts of things, like analogical predication. And it's like, well, it turns out that like some people think that analogical predication is actually just like, it just boils down to a mixture of univocal and equivocal predication, whereas the other people, like, they were trying to get us to latch on to these ways of being just by, appealing to this kind of primitive notion of analogical predication. It's like, but I don't even share that notion, so that comes up there as well. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I guess one thing, last ditch strategy, not interpretive dancing. I guess that would be the last ditch. Or maybe we could like do some kind of manipulation on your brain or something to try to get you to have the concept or whatever. But that might be
Yeah.
immoral. Oh no, you don't know what that means. No, I'm kidding. No, but
Well, I
yeah,
understood
I
it
guess
as referring to my preferences.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But that's not how I expressed it, so you don't know what I. No, I'm kidding.
Mm.
Now, back to the non-atrocious jokes. Let's see. What was I going to? Oh yes, the last ditch strategy. Well, the second to last, penultimate ditch strategy. It's kind of like you've received this a billion times before, but you could try to go a companions and guilt route. So like, do you
I
also
hate that
understand
argument so
epistemic
much.
normativity and yeah, do you
I
understand
hate the
epistemic
CIG.
normativity and epistemic odds as in terms of your preferences and whatnot? And if so, people might find that as
Yeah.
implausible. Like surely it just is the case that even if someone doesn't want to accept the conclusion of a valid argument where they accept all the premises and they recognize that it's valid, even if they don't want to accept the conclusion, they should. So like, yeah, what do you think about that kind of? And again, I know you've heard this a billion
I
times, so
I
don't take this as me, using this as a knockdown weapon that I can
No,
bang
no,
you on
no.
the head
It's
with.
it's fine. Like
Yeah.
we're just kind of chatting. It's cool. Like even if you
Yeah.
think something's a kind of weird argument, or even if you're not really that, you don't even buy it, but you just want to see how I'd reply to it. Like I
Exactly.
don't care. It's just philosophy.
Yeah.
Um, it's like a motto. I don't care. It's just philosophy. Great, great.
Exactly.
What? I don't quote that, please. Very philosophy is important.
It
Yeah.
is.
I mean, I have a kind of tetrapartite reply, using your word there, to
Nice.
the companions in guilt. So I mean, I take it that so we see that term norm come up like twice in there. Maybe it's three times. But the point is that it's referred to so I mean, I could recite the argument. Obviously, it's like if error theory is true, then there's no moral reasons. If there's no moral reasons, there's no epistemic reasons. There are epistemic reasons, therefore error theory is false. Okay, like moral realism is true. Some of the terms are used a bit
Yes.
differently. It's not always error
If I could
theory.
interrupt.
Yeah. Oh
to,
yeah.
to
Sorry, my
correct
eyes were
a
closed.
potential.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. A potential. I'm not saying that this is an actual misunderstanding, but like the way that I was running this was not the companions of guilt style argument, but just to like point that it's a kind of companions of guilt with respect to your concept. So like I guess this will depend on your
It
concept.
was an analogical thing. I didn't understand that. Sorry, I thought you were just talking about CIG as itself.
No, not an argument, not the argument itself. I mean, I'm not sure I even buy that argument in and of itself. But like, with respect to trying to get you to latch onto the concept, I was trying to give a sort of conceptual companions in guilt argument where it's
Oh.
like, it seems to be the case. You might not even grant this, but like, surely you think that there. Well, no, you don't. Um, how am I going to do this? I'm just going to do this in my terms. I'm just going to
Okay.
put myself in a position
Sure.
where if I start thinking maybe I don't have a concept of this kind of non-goal referencing reason or normative reason, or these external normative reasons, I'm starting to wonder, oh crap, do I even have that concept? But then someone brings up, well, hey Joe, like think about epistemic reasons, right? Like, Joe, don't you think that even if someone didn't have a preference for accepting, didn't have any desires or preferences or whatever for accepting the conclusion of a valid argument where they accepted all the premises, don't you still think, Joe, that they should accept the conclusion, given that they accept the premises and it's a valid argument and whatnot? Or don't you think that even if someone doesn't want to believe in accordance with all the evidence that they have, don't you still think that they should, even though they don't want to and they don't have the desire to, they don't have preferences that favor that or whatever? And I would be like, yeah, that seems plausible. And then that person could be like, so you do have this kind of non-goal referencing external normative reason. You have it with respect to epistemology, and so that's basically what we're kind of doing with respect to morality. So,
Okay.
again, I'm not saying that you would accept this, but that's how I would sort of go through it in my mind. This kind of
I need
conceptual
clarity on
companions
something.
of
I'm
guilt argument.
lost. I'm sorry. I'm lost. I need you to clarify something. I don't understand how that wasn't just in different words the companions in guilt itself. How is that just like an analogy? How is that not just the actual companions in guilt argument?
So I'm not sure if it's an analogy. So this is me just going through a kind of procedure to try to help you get the concept, right? To get the concept of
Okay.
an external normative reason. And it's going to depend on whether or not our concept of an
Like,
epistemic reason is a non-goal referencing or an external
yeah,
normative reason.
yeah, because
So I wasn't giving like an argument, or I'm not giving an argument from the fact that there are these external normative epistemic reasons to the fact that there are, or must be, or likely are these external normative moral reasons.
yeah.
I was just saying like, if I found myself without the concepts,
Uh-huh.
I'd look, even if I didn't accept that there were any of these external normative reasons, I'd still find myself, oh crap, I do have a concept of an external normative epistemic reason.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's basically what's going on with the case of external normative moral reasons. And so if I find myself with the latter concept, then it seems as though I should be able to find myself with the former concept. So I'm not really arguing that these concepts even latch onto anything in reality or what have you. I'm just engaging in a procedure to try to get
Yeah.
you to have the concept. Now,
So
of
can I?
course, oh yeah,
Sorry.
I was
Yeah.
just going to quickly say before I turn it over to you. Of course, you could just reject that. Like, no, Joe, when you say these epistemic reasons, that's not these kinds of external normative reasons. Those aren't non-goal referencing. Like, I still don't understand that. Yes, you could say that, and that would completely demolish the argument. The argument wouldn't work. But I mean, I'm just trying to help you
Yeah.
get into this circle, right? That you're trying to barge into. I'm trying to
Exactly.
help you,
I appreciate
and so
it.
I'm giving, yeah, and so I'm giving. I'm not the conveyance of guilt argument, but a kind of conceptual one, where it's like,
Yeah.
let's just set aside whether or not there are these external normative reasons. Surely you have the concept of the
Mhm.
external normative
I got you.
epistemic reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got you that time. I'll try to repeat it to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. Uh, there's some other thing I want to say there for a second, though. Okay, well, whatever. So yeah, you're basically. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah, like my whole kind of tetrapartite response to CIG type arguments is really just to go, okay, well, you use like norm or whatever the moral term is. It shows up before epistemic and before moral. So there's basically, if we understand that those could be those moral terms could be used in like an internalist or an externalist sense, then you have well, like a tetrachotamy of possibilities. You get like both internal, one external, first external, second internal, both internal. And then my reply to the argument actually changes based on how it's construed. On some, I think I accept the argument. On others, I don't. I think typically it's supposed to be both external. And on that interpretation, I just reject that there are categorical or whatever you want to call them, external epistemic reasons. I just bite the bullet. I don't get it. So it sounds like you don't want to run CIG. That I'll make sure I understand you properly. You're trying to run an analogous argument. I thought you said it was analogous, but you didn't like when I said that. But point is, I think you're trying to go. If you have a concept of moral reasons, then or if the concept of epistemic, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like you're trying to do the same thing. Like if there's no concept of moral reasons, then there's no concept of epistemic reasons, but there is a concept of epistemic reasons, so there is a concept of moral reasons. Close?
Sort of,
Okay. Sure, correct
yeah.
me.
Again, this isn't really an argument. It's kind of procedural, right? So I'm reminded of what a lot of people think that what Descartes was doing in the meditations, right? So a lot of people think he wasn't really offering an argument. He was just kind of just doing this performance, this meditate, like this kind of formative act. It's not really he's giving an argument like I think, and if I think, then I exist. Therefore, I exist. No, rather he's just trying to find what's indubitable, this indubitable foundation upon which he can build his philosophy. So I guess I'm almost doing this as a performative, like. I'm just inviting you, like as a person, right, who may or may not have the relevant concepts, and I'm just saying, let's do this performance, okay? So when you, like, surely you, like actually you, when you think of someone claiming that.
Yeah, I can reply to the performance. Yeah, you don't. I don't mean to cut you off, but you don't have to repeat it. I
Okay,
got
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I was interpreting it like it was supposed to be like a sequence of premises and a conclusion, like more tightly analogous to the CIG. But I think I understand you. Like you're trying to go. If I see an argument, a valid argument, for instance, and someone accepts the premises and rejects the conclusion, I want to say they should accept the conclusion, right? Where the should is like mind independent. And
Yeah,
you
like
want to go.
even if they don't want to. And the thing is, like, let's set aside whether or not you accept that is true.
Yeah, I know what it
All I
means.
want to say, yeah. You have the concept.
Yeah, I don't know what it means.
Okay, yeah, I see.
I'm that guy. Yeah.
As you know, no, I mean that's fine. As I mean, I did say, and you know this. I was prophesying earlier. I said earlier, like one way you could get out of this, and this would entirely bar the argument, is like, nope, I don't have that. I don't have that concept. So yes, that does
Yeah.
wreck the performative. I mean, I know I just said argument, but it's really a performance that's just you specific. Um, so again, that was my penultimate ditch strategy. So I guess I have to get into interpretive dancing now.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay, this isn't good. Maybe
So
we
it's
should
like,
cut
no, I'm
the.
kidding. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like it's a barrier. I mean, this. I really actually appreciate this conversation because like it seemed like we quickly both kind of understood what would happen. Like I kind of the second I heard you describe that view, I was like, I think I know where this is gonna go, and I feel like
yeah, and we're
when
both
I yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and like we both are at least familiar with the case that Lance gives, and we both have seen certain discussions with him and how those turn out, and we know the kind of the dialectic where this is going. And I mean, I was thinking at the beginning, like when you were prophesying, I'm like, yeah, that's gonna happen. I'm like, I know all these different strategies where someone tries to point into other concepts that they might have, or blah blah blah. So
Yeah, well, I guess it's funny, but we might just be like at a stalemate because the thing is, like, I can tell you what I think is going on. Like, I think probably we are actually having the same experience. I don't think our psychology is radically different. I think we've both built up conceptual architecture that's like large enough that it's a bit impenetrable, and our concepts are built up a bit differently. I'm very doubtful that we're actually having different experience. I just think there's probably so much conceptual clutter built up around it that it's like very hard for us to understand that we're describing the same thing. That's what I honestly think when I talk to these people. But yeah, I mean, that's not always agreed with. People will go, no, we are not thinking the same thing. We're thinking very fucking different. So yeah.
yeah, well, and other people are like, you're just suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. Like you are just suppressing
Okay,
this
I'm not
concept.
trying to
Like, oh,
do that.
yeah, like you definitely have the concept, and you're just suppressing it. You don't want, yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
But I'm saying it to level with you. In the same way, I would honestly appreciate if a Christian leveled with me like that. Because I would go, okay, I don't think I'm doing that, but I appreciate that you're being honest with me. And for the record, suppress. Wait. Well, that implies lying, so that's a bit harsher. I do not think you're lying. I think I can't give arguments for this. We kind of had the argument part already. I'm just saying shit now. But if you just want to know what I think, like I think I bet we're all doing the same thing. I think we're probably just describing it in different ways. Like, I mean, there's a separate conversation that's really, I think, the one we need to have. That's almost about like phenomenology, where we need to sit there and talk through like from a first person perspective, like when you perceive the like moral truth or whatever, like I want to know what the fuck that experience is. I want us to like
Yeah.
communicate at length on that, and I want to understand how that's different, that experience you're having, from me just really not liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Like
No,
because
that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, that's interesting. Like, that could potentially be. Well, I mean, what makes that difficult, of course, as you know, is just that, like, we don't really have a sufficiently rich, I don't know, vocabulary to express the precise qualitative, phenomenal character of these sorts of things. It's like
Yeah.
that's almost like a barrier to that. But like, that might actually be like a way to proceed with these sorts of, I don't want to say disputes, but like these sorts of barriers when one person doesn't really seem to have the concept, or
Yeah.
at least a concept that's relevantly similar to the other one. So like, yeah, that could actually be a way to go.
Yeah, I have a bit of this leaning from like used to have a little bit of interest in like Buddhism and some of this kind of stuff. So when it comes to a lot of this first person subjective experience kind of stuff, like I put a lot of emphasis on the like phenomenology. And what I like, again, like what I think is going on in these kind of conversations is like I don't when these people talk to me, again, I don't want to say I think you're lying. I do not think you're lying. I'm not trying to Christian you or something, but like, you know it's like I find it hard to believe that we're having some like radically different experience, and that if I were put in your mind, that I'd be like, holy shit, there's like moral properties like flying all over the like. I mean, I just have a feeling I'd be like, oh, it's the same thing, and I'd be like, so what the fuck was he talking about? And if that's the case, then it's just a language thing, but it's like a deep enough one that it seems non-semantic, right? And the way if you have something that is semantic, but it's like so deep that it's hard to even notice that's the kind of thing that like yeah, doing a little phenomenology and trying to actually get like this real clarity on exactly what we're describing. And the thing is, at least I agree it's a barrier. We don't have a lot of good language for a lot of this phenomenological stuff. I think Eastern philosophy has a bit more progress on that, to be honest. But I think at least it's approachable, right? I mean, maybe you think the task of interpretive dance is approachable, but I'm not going to be a dancer, okay? So at least the task of like at least maybe that's a way we can try over time to bridge the gap is like try to develop a shared vocabulary. I don't know why I enunciate it like that. To talk about the phenomenology around these kind of moral experiences, and maybe by building a common enough foundation there, we can finally get on the same page about what if anything is different about what you and I are experiencing when we see like an old lady get stabbed or something. So it's approachable because we could build that linguistic architecture. It feels less shitty than, well, stalemate. Like have fun doing philosophy in your little universe.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, I mean, like this is interesting. I mean, I feel like, well, okay. I mean, I'm not sufficiently informed about the literature to know that whether or not this has been, latched onto and discussed a lot. But at least prima facie, from what I'm aware of, this seems to be like a potentially new problem or new area of research that people can try to explore. Like, I don't know. You and Lance should try to write something up and just be like the problem of. What is it? The problem of conceptual disparity or something, just like title it that and just like like go through and just talk about this phenomenon where there seems to be this almost kind of stalemate where some people almost have a kind of built into their very concept of a reason, say, is this referentiality, this um, goal referencing,
Doesn't have to be
to the
that
point
though.
that
Doesn't have to be they have another concept that's in tension with it. It can just be they lack the concept and don't even have their own. It's not
yeah,
necessary that
that's
yeah.
very true. Yeah, exactly. And like explore the consequences of that and like talk about the different strategies that someone give to them, this kind of a connection to other sorts of things that the person might take to be, you know, I want to say able to be get a grip on a conceptual grip on, but like you could talk about the different strategies, right? So like the strategies that we've been through, so the almost conceptual companions in guilt strategy, and talk about why you think that fails. Talk about the the trying to companion, almost the symmetry that deity defeater or whatever that you're talking about, that kind of strategy. Another shot. I'm trying to build you an outline for your paper that you're going to co-author with with Lance.
Yeah, I
So
don't know about that.
I mean, like this is seriously an interesting problem. There's so much cool philosophy that could be done on this. Like you could bring in meta-ethics, philosophy of language. You could bring in phenomenology and so on.
Yeah.
Like this is a really interesting problem that I don't think has been sufficiently appreciated in the literature, and it's a serious problem. And yeah, I mean, there are so many also cool philosophical things to that can bear on this. You got companions in guilt style considerations. You got stuff about Agrippa's trilemma, and you got primitivity. All this cool stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I could say a bunch about that. Yeah. Let me pick a thing to talk about, I guess. So, one thing is that there's a kind of similar thing that happens with arguments, actually. Someone can always just question the premise, like all the way down, right?
Yeah.
Why is that premise true? Why that's and at some point, I guess for the public watching, they're just gonna have to like either they're on your page or they're not, right? Like that you can have some people think it's dishonest. Like you can always just escape by asking for the next premise and the next premise and the next premise, but it's like, well, not. I mean, if you're an honest actor, you can't if you actually believe one of the premises. And additionally, it's going to be very hard to fool the public if the other guy gets his argument down to a level where the premises are things like dogs exist or something like that, right?
Exactly.
Like, so but there is almost a parallel to the trying to like I don't have the concept. I don't have the It's like why would I accept that premise? Why would I accept that? Like, it's kind of this pattern of like you can always just have this. I mean, I don't even know what the fuck I was gonna say. There's a parallel there. That was the extent of it. There's something else I was gonna say about what you said. Can you repeat your last point there?
Yeah, so I mean, I was just trying to give you like an outline of different ways that you can
Right.
go about exploring this problem, right? And so one of them, different strategies that
Oh
people
yeah.
level and that you and Lance could respond to. So one of them was, of
Yeah.
course, the conceptual companions of guilt. Another one was deity defeater's symmetrical consideration. Another one is the kind of trying to build connections between different concepts that you are alleged to possess. Those are at least three strategies that
Yeah.
we've talked about in this particular video, and stuff about like Agrippa's trilemma and whatnot, and
Okay.
primitivity.
I remembered. So yeah, sorry, I didn't want to make you repeat the whole thing, but yeah. So another thing is you mentioned that this is not a common kind of critique. So, at least that this critique hasn't been delivered a lot. I think I have this feeling it's symptomatic of a kind of another problem. I mean, it's definitely present in the lay public. It might be present in academic philosophy. You'd probably be better poised to or posed to assess that than me. I don't, I'm not actually super read on philosophy, but yeah, there's a tendency to. So the way I view it is you can always engage someone at the level of arguments, right? But there's a kind of a layer that's below that, which is like semantic. And in the same way that any empirical debate you can turn into a philosophy debate by going like, what epistemic framework are you using, right? And then suddenly you can destroy every nutrition debater on the planet because none of them know how to respond to that, yet all of their points rely on that. And it's not biconditional. It doesn't go the other way with philosophy. Philosophers understand it, where the barriers are between philosophical and empirical questions and know how to avoid the things they can't, right? So it's kind of this lower level you can always drag these people into to their dismay, right? Same kind of thing with semantics, like broadly. Like the guy who's making an argument, you can always kind of get underneath that frame by not knowing what words in the argument mean, right? Now, I what was I going to say about that? I think that there's some kind of aversion, or if not an aversion, like at least it's not intuitive for people to attack in that kind of way. Like, you know how it's really natural for people to want to try to say that's false or that's true, and they like don't understand that it's sufficient to be agnostic to reject what the other guy is saying?
Yeah.
It's like a similar kind of thing, I think, where there's this jumping to like trying to falsify. Maybe it's the same thing. I'd have to think about it, but it's like jumping to trying to falsify, and there's really often a position. It's like if you try to attack it without having enough clarity, it's like trying to attack like mist or something, right? Like my grandpa said once something like 99% of the solution is like defining the problem clearly. It was something like that, you know. And I think that kind of shit is true with semantics generally. It's like very often we don't actually have to even hit the level of talking about arguments. And people hate me for this. They want to talk about arguments because they made their little argument and they feel comfortable. They don't want to be asked semantic questions. But yeah, I think often semantic critiques are the most devastating. Like, I mean, if you're using a concept that's just incoherent, it doesn't matter how. Maybe you use some like really fucking intricate logic. Maybe you've used a ton of like really involved like contemporary meta. It's like doesn't matter if there's a term in there that doesn't make sense, and someone can run a competent semantic analysis. You're never even going to get to run your argument. So yeah, I've been rambling, but the thing with the Lance critique is I really like it because it's taking that angle of like I just don't understand what the fuck you're saying. It's not like overshooting into this is false when I don't even know what the fuck this is. It's like just give me the concept, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a kind of modesty in that regard. So it's not, going all gung ho and it's like, oh, that's false, or just attacking, attacking, attacking. It's almost like, yeah, like you said, you could just go at this different level of debate, and it's like that's a crucial level of debate that people oftentimes firstly overlook, but also secondly, as we've seen here, might not like share when it comes to the conceptual foundations. So yeah, I largely agree with what you just said. So yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I mean, I could just throw into a different topic, but since I am on a timer, and I know you are too, I mean, maybe we just cut it there because it was a good conversation.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this, and it's nice because I haven't directly engaged with anyone who is in the kind of Bush camp, the Lance Bush camp. It's kind of interesting that now he's the kind of torchbearer for it. But it's fun because I haven't like directly talked in this regard and engaged. I've just kind of seen it with like Eric Samson and other sorts of debates and discussions that Lance has had. So it's nice to be able to kind of engage in it firsthand and encourage you guys to write a paper on this with a little outline that I gave. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the total percentage of time spent talking about Lance and the percentage of that I spent talking about that thing that I think was problematic about what he said. I worry I've spent too much of my time here being critical. I really quite like what Lance is doing. I think he's very smart. He's got great stuff to say.
Yeah,
and yeah, I
and it's
guess
super cool. Well, I just wanted to say, like, it's super
yeah,
cool because, like, these sorts of considerations are often, as he points out, entirely overlooked in meta-ethical
right,
discussions. Like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, our claim, like cognitivism, they just say like, oh yeah, our moral claims are truth after. But whose are? Like, what proportion of people, like, are you
right.
making
Who's
a
it
real
quantifying
claim?
over?
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just completely overlooked. I mean, as I've seen, That's completely overlooked by a lot of meta-ethicists and a lot of meta-ethical discussions. And so it's nice to at least have this kind of new wave of critique being pushed and being discussed. I think it's a way to kind of give the path for progress. So.
I wish everyone reacted to criticism of their position by praising it and calling it the path to progress. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. And yeah, I guess one task that you can maybe do if you want to for next time we speak, if you want to try to talk more about this. I mean, it's probably not of interest to you if you're busy with fill of religion stuff, but if you do have time to try to honestly think through the phenomenology, when I see something wrong, like what is happening, and try to frame your phenomenological investigation around this question: how is my experience distinct from an experience of strong disdain towards something? Because if you could answer that for me, that might give me some insight into what people are talking about when they talk about having these like moral experiences. So there's one thing you can do if you want to.
All right, we both have tasks.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it's been great talking to you, and I mean, I quite like you. Feel free to message me anytime if you want to chat more and text, or set up another combo or something. And do you want me to send you the recording from this? Do you have any use for it? I'm gonna throw it up on my channel. Send it to you if you want it.
That's totally cool. I probably won't repost it on my channel, but because I normally don't do like reposts or whatever.
That's fine.
But yeah, I look forward to seeing it and liking it and whatnot on your channel. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, it's great talking to you. Have a good one, eh?
All right. See ya.
Okay. Bye.